What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Brad Parker, and welcome to Mint Conditions Live, Episode 6, the show that talks sports cards, memorabilia, NFTs, trading cards, and everything. We cover everything, folks. I'm coming to you guys live from New York City. I got my jerseys behind me. I got my Kobe's. I got my Garnetts. Obviously, they were just enshrined into the Hall of Fame, so, big ups to them. They permanently have cemented themselves into NBA allure forever. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, check out our show. It's on the Scores Instagram page. We have our IG videos that come out weekly. I promise you guys would enjoy the sports card content if you haven't already checked it out. And then I'll be coming to you guys live every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from Mint Conditions Live. I'm really excited, guys. I'm really excited, because we have an insanely cool guest on tonight. I'll save it for a couple minutes. We'll bring him on. Well, last week we had Buster. Buster came, saw, and conquered. He showed out. That's the homie. He was awesome. We have to follow him up with someone big because Buster, sets the standard. And guess what? We did follow him up with someone big. So we have a special guest joining us in a couple minutes. I promise you guys are going to love him. You're going to love his work. And I'm sure you know some of his work. There's a little hint. I'm also excited for another reason. Being a New Yorker, being an avid Knicks fan, my Knicks are in 4th place, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go. It's about time. Let's go. We've been waiting our whole lives for this. And now we got to make some noise, Julius Randle, MVP. Anyone have something to say about that? Chat? Twitch, YouTube, anything? Yeah, the Knicks. Not going to win the championship, but, it's looking good right now. It's time. The Nets are going to win the championship across the water, the Cross River rival. All good, though. Big game on Sunday, Knicks playoff game, but also tonight. What do you guys think about the play-in games, folks? I'd love to know what you guys think. Tonight is Lakers-Warriors, Steph Curry versus LeBron James. It doesn't get more prime time than that. Wednesday night is tonight, and the game will be live on TV. So you guys better be tuning in. If it's past your bedtime, convince your parents to let you stay up because it's going to be a show. So I'm excited for that, as you guys know. And then, guys, I got to tell you, usually I like to open up the show with a little 5 to 10 minute intro, reviewing last week's episode, previewing this week's, which is going to be fun. We're talking about KG, Garnett, and Kobe, which is very timely. Obviously, they were inducted into the Hall of Fame on Saturday of last week. But I'm going to cut that out this week. I'm going to cut out the long intro because I want the most amount of time possible with our special guest this week. He's the man. Before I started working at The Score, I used to work at a company called Hoop Magazine, and I was going to NBA games. I was interviewing players in the locker rooms pre-COVID. And I had the privilege of going to Knicks games, and I'd be courtside getting some B-roll, some footage, whatnot, some content. And I came across this gentleman, a little older guy. He's wearing all black, got his NBA gear, got his NBA vest on. So he definitely works for the league. He's got his fancy photography and all this stuff. We just started chit-chatting one day. This is back in 2018. I keep on seeing him at all these games. And, bottom line, at the end of the day, one of the most humble, down-to-earth, nicest guys you will ever come across, a true professional in the industry. And then someone once told me, Brad, you realize, you're talking to Nat Butler, the Nat Butler. I'm like, who's Nat Butler? They pull up his Instagram. I look at some of his iconic photos that he shot throughout an illustrious 37-year career. I'm like, that's the guy who shot these? That's Nat Butler? I've seen the name Nat Butler before. I just never put the face with the name, which is pretty common. He's not in most of the pictures. He's shooting the iconic athletes. Oh my God! When I tell you guys that like I was stunned because not only am I talking to a legend, but also at the same time he doesn't act like that. He has all the right in the world to be like a cocky guy and whatnot, and be bragging about what he does or not give you eye contact when he speaks. Quite the opposite. Asking me questions about myself, what got me started in the field, in content, and all this stuff. And we're both from Long Island, so we had that in common. We're both from New York, so yeah. I mean, it was a pleasure to get to know him over the years and. We recently reconnected. I asked him if he wants to hop on Mint Conditions. And the coolest part about Nat is, he has so many stories, but yet he tells them in such an awesome way that makes you feel like you're there. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I can definitely guarantee, actually, that you've seen at least one of his iconic photos in your life. Many of his photos had ended up on valuable sports cards, which I'll get to in a little bit. I actually own a bunch of them, which is pretty sick. Some LeBrons, some Jordans, some weird cards with crazy stories behind them. He's been capturing iconic NBA photos for 37 years. He's worked all the big NBA Finals games, the playoff games, in NBA drafts, countless All-Star games and events. He was there in Barcelona with the Dream Team. He's got some MJ stories he might share with us. We'll get him to open up a little bit. Not that he needs any opening up. He's full of stories, but I'm going to ask him some of the big ones. Any questions for Nat Butler or myself, please let me know. So without further ado, he was in the bubble last year. His images have graced the cover of many magazines. They've been used in documentaries, on sports cards, like I said. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please give it up from my man, Nat Butler. Nat, we're going to bring him on in 3, 2, 1. There he is.
Hey, Brad. Quite the intro. Thanks for having me.
Nat, I had
big shoes to fill after Buster. I'm a big Buster fan. He's killing it on everything.
He's absolutely crushing it.
I love it. So let's go. We got big shoes to fill.
We have certainly have big shoes to fill, Nat. It's first. I just want to say, as a friend, it's been a pleasure getting to know you over the years, and it's really great that you took the time out of your busy schedule, especially right before the playoffs start. Take out an hour and talk to us. Talk about your photos. Talk about your experiences throughout the NBA, and it's great. So I really want to sincerely thank you for taking the time out to join us.
Oh, I appreciate that, and I love your fandom. I love your passion, because at the end of the day, I'm a hoops fan.
Love that.
And that's I don't have to be reminded of it, because every day I'm happy for what I'm able to do.
If there's anyone that appreciates what they do, I know it's you. And I've only met you a handful of times, but you know who the real ones are. So
I appreciate that.
No, for sure. And there's a lot of people you'll meet in this industry. And listen, to be quite honest, not everyone is down to earth and humble. And it's so refreshing to come across someone who really takes the time out to talk to. I'm not saying I'm such a big shot now, but I was a little guy. I was like, who am I? I'm a random schmo at the game courtside taking photos and videos for my old Instagram page, and you treated me like I was royalty. It was great.
No, that's like people have done that to me, and it's the old pay it forward a little bit. It's a very small circle of people at these games, and I often have to apologize to people, because I don't want them to get the wrong idea if I was a little rude or something, because at a game or pregame, I'm getting into my thing, and I can't chit chat a lot of times. I have a job to do, and whether it's pregame, whatever, so there's a fine line there. I can't most times I don't have the time to do it at the arenas.
Makes sense, totally. And I always felt bad annoying you, but it was great. It was great that you took some time out to make me feel like made me feel like a superstar a little bit. So it's nice.
That's great.
But real quick, I got to start off with this. You've been an NBA photographer for documenting the league for 37 years. That's a long time. Most people.
I started when I was 12. Let's get that out of the way.
Wow.
So,
I'm not gonna ask your age now, but
I'm bad at math anyway. So let's moving right along.
We'll move on. For what it's worth, you look like you haven't aged a minute. I've looked at some of your old school photos.
There we go. Keep kissing.
I'm gonna keep kissing. All right. All right. Cool. I'll let you know when you ran out of compliments. But I want to ask you. Describe what it's been like being so close to the game for 37 years and starting at such a young age. What's that been like for you?
When you're first starting out in your career, you don't think you're going to be doing it for 37 years. You're just doing it day by day. You're learning a craft. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm a hoops fan. Could be a little bit of a hoops junkie. I love the whole vibe of things,
Yes.
But just starting off slow with NBA years ago, and have been very fortunate. A lot in life is timing, and the growth of the NBA in the 80s, and seeing the Celtic Lakers of mid 80s, Bird Magic, to the growth of the basketball under Commissioner Stern's leadership, with the growth internationally,
right.
During the 80s into the 90s of that dream team, when things internationally just exploded.
Of course.
So it just sort of been on that rise ever since, and we could all be fans of Magic, Bird, and Michael, and all these big stars. There's always new guys on the horizon, that the game is always in good hands.
Of course. We're certainly going to get into some Dream Team talk. I'm really happy you brought that up. I just want to say what up to some of the guys in the chat. YouTube, what up, Jose? What up, Reed? What up, Nathan? What up, Jurassic Mark? And Drifter Thrifter is one of our most loyal tuner-inners. That's what I call you guys sometimes. Like sometimes it's
Ah,
Chet. So yeah, at Drifter Thrifter just goes, is that Nathaniel Butler? Yes, you already know it is.
right,
Correct. Also, people are recognizing you. I'll admit, I didn't know. I know the name. I didn't know the face when I first met you, but I quickly
right,
I learned. I did my
right.
homework. No, so clearly, listen, clearly based off that first answer, you've got to witness some incredible historic moments in 37 years around the game. So, I got to ask you, what was the first big moment that you got to shoot?
You know what? Like, I'm based in New York, so early on, you know, um, young MJ coming into the Garden. I went to St. John's, so I was sort of shooting some big games like St. John's Georgetown in the early '80s was like
Ooh.
a big deal. Chris Mullin, Patrick Ewing.
When the
So I
Big
was
East was the Big East.
correct, and I was used to that, but then got more involved, obviously, with NBA, and then, one of my early, more memorable shots, I think, would be '87, Magic's junior hook. It was Celtics Lakers up in Boston Garden.
You didn't take the photo of the junior game winning hook, did you?
Stop! Come on, I did.
Nat, I have to pull that up. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. I got
And
up.
and things were different in those days because we're shooting film. Now, obviously, things are digital technology wise, but you press the button and you hope that you get the picture. It's a couple hours. You run back to the hotel, develop the film, looking at the strips in the bathroom of the hotel, hoping that you get that shot.
Of course.
But that was one of the more early memorable shots.
No, of course. I mean, I can't even imagine, where you were for that. I just can't believe that you were at those games and you've seen some of the craziest moments in NBA history. It's pretty wild to be there to witness that stuff. Let me ask you, how many times do you hear from people that say, you're the one that shot that? That's you?
You know what? It's funny you asked that question because it happens all the time. I have been fortunate to be doing this for a long time, and over the years, like, they're like, "Wow, I remember that," or as a kid, I had that poster. I remember that picture. One of my crazy, and it did happen. A similar thing happened to a colleague of mine. Crazy story was the first time that I ever met Kobe Bryant. He came up to me and said, "Oh, you're Nathaniel Butler." Like, shook his hand, both hands, gave me a hug.
Right.
And I'm like, who's like, how does he know, like, who I am? This is Kobe Bryant, the young 18-year-old from Philly that I keep hearing about,
Right.
But he was in Italy. His dad, for the younger people watching, listening, Kobe's dad played professional basketball in Italy. Kobe was raised in Italy.
I got to hear the story. Keep going.
He was obviously a hooper. He had all the Jordan posters in his bedroom, and then on the posters they would say, photo by, and in typical Kobe fashion, he would sit there, stare at these posters, and he knew my name. No one looks at those names other than the photographer.
He knew your name?
But the name on the poster, and he goes, "Oh, you're Nathaniel Butler." I had I had Jordan posters all over my bedroom when I was a kid in Italy, And then getting to know Kobe a little bit, it totally fit his personality. That's how obsessed he was, like looking at every little detail.
Right.
No one looks at those names on a poster other than the photographers themselves.
Of course.
You know?
Yes, of course.
So people do come up and say, "Oh, you took that shot, you took that," and it's cool for me because we work hard at it.
Right. Right. Of course. No, that totally makes sense. That's such a cool story. I mean, the fact that you got to meet young Kobe. I know you have that picture of him on draft night in the Hornets hat, which was pretty wild.
Right. Well, again, for some of the younger audience, like, people didn't know that he was actually drafted by the Hornets and then traded to the Lakers. So things like that are cool from a historical standpoint. What if a guy makes a shot, misses a shot? What if Jordan doesn't hit that shot? What if Ray Allen doesn't hit that shot?
Right.
What if Kobe stayed in Charlotte? Like that's sports, and that's why we all love sports.
I mean, all the what if scenarios. The NBA TV came out with a few episodes of a series called What If Moments. So when you talk about that, it's like
Right.
that certainly resonates, because what if Robert Horry didn't hit that shot against the Kings? What if?
Yeah. There's a million stories like that.
It's unbelievable stuff like that. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, Nat, you're at every All-Star game. You're at every NBA Finals. You're at, every draft, a lot of the playoff games, a bunch of regular season games. My question to you is, you're in the locker room with these guys all the time. I've done that before, but you're in it for years, day in and day out. What was your personal favorite photo that you've ever captured over the years?
You know what? I often get asked that question. It seems like a normal question to ask, but it's very difficult to answer, because you could have a favorite one for a period of time, but then I wanna strive and get something better.
Right.
I grew up a Knicks fan, so like the Starks dunk that became a kind of a famous poster was cool for a while. Patrick Ewing standing up in the garden with the ceiling was cool for a while.
Of course.
Like being a fan, but then like I want more. I want, like, I'm out there. I want, better and more things. You get a little greedy, because I'm not content. I'm always trying to get the next great shot.
Right.
And that's a lot of what motivates me.
Right. That makes sense. I mean, I don't think you need any motivating. Look at your work. Look at everything you've done.
No, it's like it's a job. Like, it happens to be a great job, but you work hard at it. A little luck never hurts. Whether you're sitting in a spot and a referee gets in your way, or a left-handed guy shoots and gets his face blocked or something. There was a picture I took way back when, of D Brown during the dunk contest, that he had his face covered. And when I first took that shot, I was like, oh, damn, he covered his face. You always want to see a player's face. But then that became like, that was the shot. It was the no look dunk, and he did it on purpose. So that, like, I was lucky enough to get that shot of D Brown doing that in the dunk contest. So a little bit of luck never hurts, for sure.
I mean, I remember I had that photo over my bathroom my entire life, the D Brown. I think that's the dopest thing ever. I mean, you've been at every single dunk contest, so you've seen literally the best dunks of all time.
Yeah, and again, like, depending, like, often for an event like that, we set up what we call remote cameras, different positions and things, and you could be prepared. You could work hard. You could do what you have to do. But if a guy just turns the wrong way or does something a little different, you never know what's going to happen.
Right. Right.
Guy hits a game winner, he turns like that, or he turns facing the back. Like, there are all these little things but I'm into that, and that's what keeps me, so driven and so focused.
I love that. That's great. I got to ask you this from a photography perspective. How have things changed, personally for you over the years? Like I know you're big on the walk-in shots. I follow your Instagram page. I see all these iconic walk-in shots when guys are walking through the tunnel of MSG, and
Right.
I just want to know how things have changed for you over the years when it comes to walk-up shots. Your players are begging you to take their picture at this point.
Right.
They're all
No,
swagged out.
Right. No, things have changed, like, tremendously. Obviously, from a technical photographic standpoint, when I first started, we talked about the Magic Johnson photo, shooting black and white, going and developing the film in the hotel after the game. You go from that to shooting color. You take the film to a lab and wait an hour or two after a game. Did I get that MJ dunk? You're like a nervous wreck waiting to get the film back.
Right.
To now, things are digital. You press the button and you have it instantaneously.
Right.
And with in this digital world, the advent of social media and things like what we're doing now, the players are very involved. They're interested in their branding. I think if I tried to shoot Larry Bird walking into Boston Garden, he probably would have punched me in the face.
No.
Now the guys, I get a text, hey, I'll be there in 5 minutes. They walk by and they're like 10 feet past me, bro, when can I get the picture, before they even hit the locker room? And I'm like, dude, can you focus on the game, please?
Yo, that's absolutely epic.
That's where those are the times we live in. And the guys are smart, man. They're savvy. They all have different businesses, whether they're doing something for a social justice cause, or one of their friends has a clothing line, or Nike's coming out with a new sneaker, or whatever. There's always a reason for it.
Of course.
And the guys, they're all 20 somethings on social media, but they're also incredibly savvy from a business standpoint. So I get it, and that makes it, the walk-ins for me personally are not my favorite type of thing, because just I'm a little more basketball centric.
Right.
But I totally get it. And sometimes, even like this year, Kyrie walked in with the Kobe jersey, and it's moving, it's touching. Like these guys didn't get to where they are by, without a lot of dedication and a lot of work.
You're absolutely right.
So that's cool to me. I saw Zion, it's funny, walked up the ramp, because the Garden is very iconic. Zion walked up the ramp and he had a Jumpman sweatshirt on.
Right.
And I was looking, and it was a picture that I had taken of MJ in 1987, was on Zion's.
That is so
sweatshirt,
cool. Everything coming full circle.
So it was like it coming full circle,
I think that's so cool.
So that's cool. That's cool for me,
I think that's awesome for anyone, but especially someone who you're seeing your work on the Futures sweatshirt. I love that. That's one of the coolest things ever. Nat, I gotta.
No,
go ahead.
Cool. No, go ahead.
I want to go through some of your picks. I gotta show some of the people tuning in some of your iconic photos real quick.
Sure.
So you can see some of those. You can see some of those real quick. I'll pop them up real quick. So people could see. But let's see. All right, so here's this one. The LeBron James chalk toss. That's you, right? Is that you behind LeBron? Is that you behind LeBron?
That's a buddy of mine took that of me shooting the chalk toss. LeBron, for those, LeBron, Nike did a huge campaign of him doing the chalk toss. He was the first person to do that. And that was cool. And that was sort of like a young LeBron's signature moment pregame, was to do that chalk toss, because that kind of was his personality. So it was cool. A buddy of mine who was at the game shot me shooting that toss, which was cool.
I think that's.
Thanks, Jets.
I think that's. Who what? So who is that? Who is that? Who did that? You could hear me?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So. That one's pretty sick. We got some others. I gotta pull up. Real quick.
Yeah, like over the years, NBA has a licensing deal with Getty Images, so all of our, like we were talking earlier, all the images go out into the universe while we're actually at the games.
So that's incredible. We got to talk about that for sure, but we got to talk about also the slam cover. What about this? Walk me through this. This is an iconic photo of some legends, although Iverson wasn't here. But
you know what? I was fortunate enough to do that. That was 96 draft class was a big deal.
Yeah.
And like I said, I shot a lot of college back in the day. I was born and raised on some Big East stuff, so I was familiar with some of these guys,
right?
But not all of them. I didn't know who Steve Nash was, to be honest. Like Santa Clara, didn't really.
I don't think anyone knew Steve Nash.
But knew Ray Allen. Anyone from New York knew Stephon Marbury from Coney Island,
of course.
Allen Iverson. You had to be an AI fan. Anyone who watched basketball was an AI fan. And Kobe we heard about, Marcus Camby I knew from UMass, but this picture sort of took on a life of its own. And the crazy story is that AI wasn't there. He left right before the photo was taken, which is kind of a bummer, but it also adds a little bit of mystique to the photo,
So it definitely does, because
like
there's a story
like
behind it.
where's AI,
My favorite part of it, that I'm a huge jersey head. Look at those jerseys over there. They're so sick. Like
Right.
that Toronto Raptors one, the Canby is insane. Love that.
Right. And the Grizzly jersey, and he now Sharif has had a long career in the NBA and worked in the NBA league office for many years, and now supposedly his son is a big deal.
Is he? Oh, so he's the
Yeah.
truth. I heard about him. Sharif's son is going to be a beast.
Yeah, so that stuff like that is cool.
Nat, this one's near and dear to my heart because I have this card in my collection. Tell me about the infamous chalk toss.
You know what? Again, that was LeBron's thing. When he was a rookie, no one had ever seen that before, and just fortunate. Like, I covered a lot of LeBron's games when he was a rookie, like he coming out of high school. Again, I don't know how young some of these people in the audience are listening, but a couple of LeBron's high school games were on ESPN.
I remember that for sure.
Crazy hyped, and there were a lot of haters out there.
No, LeBron haters. There were none of those.
There were a lot of LeBron haters, and the pressure that he was under was unbelievable, and he has kicked ass from day one. He's now in year 18. The play-in game is tonight. Like, he's literally been the best player in the NBA for 15 years.
Who you got
it's
tonight?
An insane thing. But I never betting against LeBron.
Can't, right?
If he's in a wheelchair leaving before the game's over, maybe I would go with the other team, but I'm not. No.
I don't know. I don't know if he'd be able to be stopped even in a wheelchair, honestly.
Look at his track record. You're not betting against LeBron. But this shot was cool.
I love that shot. I have this card in my collection, which it's worth a pretty penny for sure. But you see this one? Tell me something about that one, because that kind of the background looks a little funky.
Well, the funny thing about I work for the NBA, so the NBA has the licensing agreement with the different card companies.
Of course.
And we don't, obviously, we take the pictures, but we don't, then choose what card goes where.
Of course.
My entire card collection is based on like things that I've liked visually, like the cool photos.
Of course.
And some of these hot, crazy cards are not the best photos per se.
Right.
This is a card where we shot LeBron on a white backdrop in for things for Cleveland when he was first coming in, and then they stripped in a background shot of the crowd.
So that's a Photoshop background of the crowd, right? Because I think it's a Lakers floor, and there's no.
And that happens, and then does that make the card? Like, I have to be honest, I'm into the cards, I'm into everything.
Yeah.
But I have no idea what differentiates a card from being. Like, I'm not in it for the value per se. Like, I have no other than like a jersey patch or an autograph. That's obvious.
Of course.
That. But in the other terms, like, I have no idea what makes everyone likes rookie cards.
Loves.
I get that, but I base it, like I said, I'm a visual person. I base it on what looks cool to me or the uniqueness of a card.
Correct. So that's definitely something that gets weighed into value. But I'll tell you right now, this card, for example, I have it in my collection, and in the peak of the hobby in February, there's a $5,000 card, which is pretty wild. I mean,
I got to talk to LeBron.
You got to talk to LeBron. I think you need some kickbacks on this card, 100%, because it's down right now. The market's a little down right now. It ebbs and flows. Like I tell everyone that tunes in, the market changes left and right, and right now it's down. So now's a good time to buy, in my opinion. But as I say that, I should let everyone know that all opinions expressed throughout the show are that of mine, the host Brad Parker, and not of the scores. So just had to throw that out there. Of course.
You know what? You gotta like I said, I personally would advise people to get what you like. This is a fun. Yes, there is money, but to be made, I suppose. But who's your favorite player? Who's your favorite team? You know, that's where we all started with this. That has value to me still to this day. Oh, it's cool for me personally. Not everyone is an NBA photographer.
Of course.
It's cool for me personally when I see my photos on all these cards. There's no doubt about that. It's cool for me.
This is so everyone tuning in. This is Nat's shot as well. You remember this one, right? How can you forget?
You know what? Which one? It's coming up now. Oh, for the photo, sure.
Of course.
Crazy moment of Ray Allen, Game 6, hitting a shot.
So let me ask you this, for example. So I see this shot. It's iconic. Everyone remembers. I think LeBron shot a 3, missed. Chris Bosh grabbed one of, if not the, most notorious rebounds in NBA Finals history. Kicked it out, one of the most clutch ones, and then kicked it out to Ray for the game-tying 3, which sent it into OT. And then if I recall, this is my senior year of college, so things got a little, woozy. I was partying a little too much. But Ray Allen hits the game tire. They win in overtime, force a game 7, and then Miami takes it home. Why? So I remember obviously watching this on TV, but what goes into your decision on where you're sitting on the court? Like, why are you there? Why are you not on the other end of the court?
You know what? That we have some internal conversations because this is a finals game. So I'm not the only one there. There's probably 4 NBA photographers shooting, these games action wise.
Of course.
Even more doing some of the peripheral stuff. I'm on one end. We have another guy on another end, elevated and things of that sort. But a little bit of luck, being in the right place at the right time.
Of course.
It never hurts. But we talk about being sports fans. That shot, like they had the rope pulled out. San Antonio was going to win the game.
Of course.
They didn't want fans on the court. Like it was literally that shot. Then Tim Duncan wins another title. Ray doesn't win in Miami. LeBron wins only one in Miami.
Right.
The course of history on one shot changes the course of history. But that was cool for me. I was thankful that I was lucky enough to get it because I like to think as Ray as one of my friends from all my years. And
you're friends with Ray Allen?
I'd like to think so. Hopefully he would think so. Just a crazy good guy, a bigger than basketball guy, a family guy. But the way we became friends was we're at the game 3 or 4 hours early, setting up our cameras, doing our testing,
right?
And he's out there warming up. Like that's how we became, more friendly.
So some sideline chit chat here and there.
Well, because of that, and not even just respecting seeing him out there working on his game, like him hitting this shot. No one was surprised. It's Ray Allen.
It's pretty awesome.
That's what he does. So that's cool. He put literally, he's there 3-4 hours every game working on his craft. So you appreciate that.
No, of course. Drifter Thrifter says a ton of questions. I don't know if I can get to all of them right now, but did Nat take this year's LeBron's Prism photo card? Have you taken any of the newer Panini Prism photo cards, like ones of him on the Lakers in his new uni?
You know what? Unfortunately, he's now on the Lakers. I don't get to see him as much when he was in the East Coast, whether it was Cleveland or Miami.
Right.
So most of those, we have another guy, Andy Bernstein, who I'm sure any basketball fan is familiar with. He's based out in LA. And just by the way that the schedule works, he gets to see LeBron a little more in a Lakers jersey than I do.
But you saw him in Cleveland and Miami.
I saw him in Cleveland. I saw him in Miami. I see him still, and I was thrilled last year. Was in the bubble, and when they won in the bubble, got to spend some time with him and stuff. I'm a big LeBron fan.
That is so awesome. Do you know offhand? First of all, as I pull up the most iconic Knicks action photo of all time, I have to bring this up because obviously my Knicks, and I'm pretty sure you're a Knicks fan too, right?
Right. I grew up a Knicks fan. I'm a little torn because I have a lot of friends in Brooklyn now, and I'm a, a little torn between my Knicks and Brooklyn roots.
Fair
I have to.
enough. That's very fair. But this is one of the most iconic pictures of all time. You shot this. You were there for that underneath the hoop, correct?
Yeah.
That is so sick.
And that if you're a Knicks fan, we have a lot of bad memories about the Bulls, but this was a good memory.
Ugh, I don't want to talk about that.
When John flushed it, and that became known as the dunk.
I'll never forget that. I was only 3 years old, but I remember that because I've watched it numerous times, obviously.
Right. Well, that's one of the pictures that people often comment on, like you asked earlier, like, "Oh, you shot that." Oh, I had that poster in my room.
Right.
That if you're from New York, that was a good moment for sure.
Right. I can't believe you read all these. It's unbelievable. Let me ask you this. I talked about this on my last episode, 2 episodes ago on Mint Conditions. Could you tell me the significance behind this Mark Jackson card, which is one of your photos?
You know what? That's a crazy story because I went to college with Mark. He's a good friend, um, but no shot the picture, made a card, like whatever. That became significant because of the guys in the background. Obviously, no one knew that at the time.
Of
Like
course.
I don't know who's sitting in Celebrity Row except the usual cast of characters with Spike and such. Um, but what came out, that card, one of the former Knicks PR people realized who was in the background, and it was the infamous Menendez brothers, and it's a little freaky actually that
Folks, there it
they're in
is.
the
The
background.
Mark Jackson card. There's
Yeah.
the Menendez brothers who murdered their parents in 1989 and then, took some of the money that they got. I guess they went for courtside seats. And Nat Butler snapped this iconic image, which, by the way, takes this card from like a 35-cent common card to in a PSA 10 form. It's over $1,000. So this would not be a thing if it wasn't for you. And Mark Jackson owes you, and so does Hoop.
Well, that has bad vibes though. It's a
It
weird
does have bad
it's a
vibes.
weird
I agree
thing,
with
but
that.
it's like the baseball. It's like the baseball, a little different. But when they used to write on the bottom of the bat, they would say like "F you" or something on the
Yeah.
bottom of the baseball bat, and if it slipped through, the people who were checking on that became a popular card. We want to do something other than who's in the background because obviously that was a terrible story.
Of
There's
course.
that other thing about the MJ
Oh,
when he
I'm
won the
bringing
Sam
that up.
Vincent card.
I'm bringing that up
Oh,
right here.
there you go. You did your homework.
Of course.
So
Let me show the followers.
That one is better in terms of a funny story.
So Sam Vincent, a nobody. No offense, Sam, if you're watching, but the iconic part about this card is Michael Jordan is rocking number 12. So do you remember the story, Nat? Do you remember why Jordan's rocking 12 in that game?
100% because I was there with the other NBA photographer that I mentioned earlier, Andy Bernstein. He's from LA. I'm in New York. We went down to Orlando together to shoot MJ's game. And like before the game, a little bit of what's going on, and someone stole his jersey out of the locker, the 23. And this was before. Now you could go to the concession stand, or half the people in the stands show up rocking an MJ 23.
Right, of course.
This was before that was prevalent, and he sent out the equipment guy. John was looking in the stands, looking around for people wearing a 23, and there wasn't anyone. There was someone that had like a small kids style, or there was no double X, whatever he was wearing. There was no jersey. So the equipment guy had a backup jersey. It was number 12. So Andy and I were talking. It's like, crap. This game's gonna be crap. You're like, now it's Michael wearing this weird jersey.
Right.
But come to find out now, the photos from that game have become more iconic because MJ wearing number 12 for one game.
Let's test your memory. How many points did he drop that game?
A lot, in the 40s.
49.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you know this about MJ.
Yeah.
He was not bad. He was a pretty good
He
player.
was good, right?
Yeah, yeah,
What does GOAT stand for again? I forgot.
yeah,
He has a pretty
yeah.
good nickname, right?
Didn't matter what jersey. Doesn't matter what jersey he was rocking. He was scoring a lot of points and doing a lot of things. You know.
I mean, we got to get to Jordan because first of all, I have this box of unopened 1990 Skybox cards.
That's insane.
Found it in my dad's basement. Obviously, I'm gonna have to open this sooner rather than later.
Right.
Maybe I'll open it with you on. But question for you: do you know who shot that picture right there? The iconic Michael Jordan card from this set.
Yeah, that was me.
That was you,
Yeah.
folks. Folks, you saw it here first. The most iconic pictures of Michael Jordan. I mean, describe your relationship with him because I gotta let everyone know that you know him, and I know you spent time with him in Barcelona. You followed the team in 1992, the Olympic Dream Team. You witnessed their run at the gold medal. It was incredible. What was that experience like? And give me a fun story, or any interaction with MJ. I know you got to have one or two.
You know what? It was just like I was covering a lot of MJ games for obvious reasons. And the NBA was growing, like I said earlier, growing internationally. International magazines wanted content from the NBA. There were magazines, France, Germany, Spain, Australia, like they were dying for NBA content.
Right.
Late 80s into the 90s. And, who better than MJ?
Of course.
So I was fortunate to do a lot of MJ's games. We spent an awful lot of time in Chicago. NBA Entertainment, who we work in conjunction with, they obviously were doing a lot of filming video, which then became The Last Dance, which everyone watched. So oftentimes I would tag along with them on some of the behind the scenes shoots and things. But it was just again fun as a fan. Like, couldn't respect the guy more. Like, it was not going up like before a game, hey, what's happening, whatever. But me just being a fly on the wall, in the locker room, in the training room. Ahmad, Rashad, and Michael are great friends. Ahmad is a friend of mine and just a good guy.
How's Ahmad? Ahmad's a good guy?
Yeah, he's a good guy. Like,
that's Jordan's boy.
I like being a fly on the wall for those moments.
Of course.
And have respect for them. I'm not going to be up in their face. It's literally leaning on the wall, getting a couple shots, being more of a documentary photographer.
Of course.
At that point, and over the years, you develop a little friendship. The 92 Dream Team, we all spent a lot of time together.
Nat, you got to tell me the story about the shoes.
You know what? We were in Barcelona. We were all staying in the same hotel. The last night was like the last day of camp. Everyone's hugging everybody. Michael's room was down the hall. I walked by. There's a pile of shoes there. Nat, you want a pair? No, I'm good, thanks.
Wait, time out. Michael Jordan asked you if you wanted a pair of his game-worn shoes from one of the games.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And I was not really thinking at the time because literally had packed up a month or 6 weeks worth of clothes, bought the wife a couple of souvenirs, Barcelona, I love Barcelona t-shirt.
Very thoughtful.
Been away, had a very young baby at home. She was holding down the fort,
right.
And obviously in retrospect, I should have emptied out my suitcase, thrown out all the clothes, put in a pair of sneakers, could have left my cameras in the hotel room in Barcelona and walked out with a pair of MJ shoes.
Nat, I don't even want to make you feel bad. How much?
Funny story. Whatever. Like, what? So I'm an idiot. I don't know.
No, I wouldn't call you an idiot.
I never really thought. I do have some photos that guys have signed and stuff, which I think are cool.
They are.
The sneakers I never really understood. I have to be honest. I'm more into the cards or photographs. Like if I go to a player's house and I see one of my photos hanging up in their house, that's kind of cool to me.
I think that's awesome.
Then it's like, hey, you took that? Yeah, actually I did. But yeah, that was a little bit of a faux pas with MJ not taking his sneakers. It could have helped me with some of my kids' college tuitions, perhaps.
And then some. You probably could have had like 2 retirement homes by now. when you do decide to hang them up.
Right?
No, that's okay.
I'm working for it.
Listen, why don't you just hit up Jordan and ask him for a pair of business shoes now?
Nah, I don't know. He's a good guy. I'm not going to buy
I know you're not like that. That's what makes you special and humble and down to earth, which is awesome. And that's part of the reason why I'm honored, to be talking to you and call you a friend, because that's how you are. And I am going to give you crap though for turning down those shoes. I think that was a big mistake.
Yeah, we don't. Well, it's like at a game. If you miss a photo, you don't get a do-over.
Of course.
I'm not getting it. I'm not getting a do-over on that. But it's kind of a funny story.
Well, speaking of shoes, that wasn't really a thing, when you came up through the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. And lately it's been, and, obviously there's a whole, sneakerhead world out there alongside the sports card world that's completely taken off. And
Right.
I'm sure players, I remember when I was going to games before COVID, players would always want to, show off their best kicks or, the crazy one-of-one designs they have. You recently had a picture go viral of Blake Griffin's special edition McLovin kicks.
Right.
How'd that
right.
work with the whole real-time, photography and all that stuff?
Well, that's like we talked earlier about. Things are digital now.
Right.
And some of the people, when you watch an NBA game and they have a play reviewed, oh, we're going to Secaucus to look at the review. Well, we have a staff of editors, depending on how many games that at night, 5-6 people could be in the office. Some people are working remotely this year for obvious reasons, but all of our pictures are going. I press the button; they're in Secaucus in 3 seconds.
What it used to be like?
So, well, depending on if we were shooting film, like it's shoot a Knicks game and go downtown to the photo district and wait 2 hours to get the film processed. But now NBA, as we all know, is at the forefront of social media, like whatever they have 50 million Instagram followers. Like NBA is very progressive. The players are into it, So I press the button, the photo goes to the editor in Secaucus. We have a group of great people there. And then they push the photos out to the teams, to different channels, if there's specific requests that night for, XYZ, whatever.
Of course.
But the Blake thing just the other night, like we always shoot a lot of sneakers. Like going back to MJ, like never knew like value of, but he had a certain style. His sneakers looked cool.
Of course.
Like I'm not a huge sneakerhead. Just again, visually things look cool. I shoot Kyrie every night in Brooklyn. His shoes look cool to me. He spends a lot of time on the design.
Right. And
the Kyrie shoes look visually cool. LeBron's shoes look like they just look good. So something in Blake was Blake's a Jumpman guy, and he was wearing new shoes, the McLovins, and it was just funny. I took the picture. I'm working, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like we have our phone there in case someone needs something from the office or somebody from the team needs something. My phone starts blowing up. I'm like, usually your first reaction, I have to be honest, is like, oh shit, something bad happened.
Right. Of course.
But it was because of those sneakers with the Hawaii license on the tongue.
Yes, the McLovin fake ID.
Right. And Blake happens to be a super good guy. He has a crazy good sense of humor.
He's actually got to know him?
A little bit. But he has done stand-up in the past.
I've seen that.
He's a good guy. So that fit his personality.
Right.
He's a good guy, has a sense of humor. You work hard, have some laughs along the way, But that was something that caught me a little bit off guard, to be honest, about how that did go viral just like last week.
Nat, I don't mean to age you at all. I promise to don't be offended by this. But in my head, in like the 90s, I'm imagining you going to MSG and snapping some shots at a Knicks game and then going back to a hotel room or your place or somewhere and taking all the negatives and putting them on a clothesline above the bathtub and letting them, marinate there until they proof. And that's all I'm imagining right now.
That was my life in early 80s.
Oh,
it was because of black and white. Color, I started shooting mid 80s into 90 when we would go. You get the slides from the lab. Downtown New York had a photo district that was rocking 24 hours. between sports and primarily fashion in that area, and it was quite the scene. And it was just like, now people take a picture with their phone. Let's take another one. Let's say, like, no, it's the film is one of one, and there's a lot of angst. Did you get the picture? It's not autofocus in those days. You had to focus. You had to expose correctly.
Right.
And there's a lot of technical things, and you never could jinx it. You never wanted to jinx it and be cocky. The Starks dunk. Did I get it? I hope so. You're never going to say, "Oh, I got it," and then find out that you have half of the referee's ass in the picture or something, and you didn't get it.
Yes.
Like, so you do have to stay humble on a lot of things.
Well, first of all, I can only imagine you snapping a photo and banging your chest or like
not happening,
brushing the shoulders a little.
Not happening.
I know that's not you. You're great, but speaking to photography and everything that goes into it, some people out there may think you just show up to a game and you snap a few pics and then you're out. But there's obviously, I'm assuming, more goes into it than just that. So describe, like, what's the daily process of shooting a game?
And that's a great question, because most people do think that, working for the league and the teams, our responsibilities are very different. I typically, I go a 7:30 Brooklyn game, like I'm there at 1:00.
You're there 6.5 hours before the game?
At 1:00, setting cameras up, like I described how the technical term is, they're all tethered.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to wire each camera. We have the ones up on the rim that everyone loves, the overhead up in the catwalk.
Of course.
And then have to test everything. We use what's called strobe, so we can't shoot on a motor drive. You have visions of someone going and shooting 8 or 10 frames. We get one shot every 4 seconds.
Oh, wow.
Can't shoot on a motor drive. And that's based on, and things have changed a little bit again with digital, but that's primarily still based on quality.
Right.
The quality is better, so there is a lot of work. I have assistants, which is how I started. Over the years, I've had some assistants that have gone on to be super crazy talented photographers. And it's their like apprenticeship a little bit, and I encourage them to, push them out of the nest after a while, but they help out tremendously.
You're playing Big Brother too. You're teaching the next generation.
Yeah, a little, yeah, and it's at least a 2-man job. We're talking about 5 or 6 cases of camera equipment. Traveling through an airport with that, or going anywhere with that, is not an easy undertaking.
I'm sure.
By stretch. And then the game ends, and you have another, 2 hours of work to do after the game. So it is kind of crazy. A lot of my friends never. Hey, let's go out after the game. I'm like, like a 2.5-hour NBA game is a 12 or 14-hour day for me.
Not to mention if it goes into OT.
It's not. That's usually a curse word for us at the games.
Overtime.
You don't want extra overtime, right? It's like it's long enough. Playoffs, different story.
Yes.
But a game in February, when you've been there for 12 hours already, you want the game to be over.
It's funny because you said you're a huge fan of the game. You geek out the same way I do, the same way all the NBA fans around the world do. Everyone's rooting for OT, but if you're working it and you're showing up to a 7:30 game at 1:30 and you're putting in all this extra time, then you're staying after the game to finish up some work.
Well, look, a great game is a great game. By the way, I said I used to do Big East. I photographed a 6 overtime game.
Not the Cuse one.
Of course. One of the craziest games ever, 6 overtimes. I was at that game.
The UConn Syracuse game.
Yes, it was cool as hell. Like, so if the game warrants it, like, I'm all for it, because like you just said, we're all fans.
Right.
But the 6 overtime game was absolutely crazy.
I remember watching that on TV, and it just would never end.
I was at that game. And then you're trying to think, like, because then you become, like I mentioned it earlier, you want to become more of a documentarian of that moment.
Yes.
So I did move my position to six overtime and shot the jump ball with the scoreboard saying the six overtime. Like you want to document that moment.
Oh my God, I remember that. I think
But one of
Jerry.
the crazy moments at the Garden, there's been a long list of crazy moments at
Oh, I could
Madison.
imagine.
You know,
Jerry McNamara was
yeah,
playing those days. I remember those.
yeah,
I remember
and
that.
they were cooked. They were cooked the next day, like
Oh, I
six
could imagine.
overtime.
I can only
You know,
imagine. Well, speaking
uh,
of moments at the Garden, this is actually across the river, but they used to be in the Garden. The Liberty. It's the 25th year anniversary of the WNBA. The
right?
local New York Liberty are absolutely crushing it. Sabrina Ionescu is the second coming. She's the future of the WNBA. She's box office. She's so fun to watch. I've been watching her since college, and
Yeah.
she dropped a triple double last night. She hit a game winner opening night, which you were there for to shoot. So WNBA games. I know you shoot them as well. How great has it been for you? Being a fan of the game, watching the WNBA game grow like it is,
You know what?
and
It's
flourishing.
crazy. It's crazy that it's been 25 years, but I remember, pretty distinctly doing shoots to get the WNBA like off the ground, shooting generic jerseys before they had a logo, before they had, but that was like a David Stern and Val Ackerman project. She just got elected into the Hall of Fame, which is so awesome. Um, and starting from that with like the first class of Rebecca Lobo, Cheryl Swoops, people like that, Lisa Leslie, those stars. It's crazy that it was 25 years ago, but it's been fun for me.
Of
you know
course.
I have a daughter. We used to go to all the games, and it's like, hey, you could do this too, kind of thing. And they exploded internationally. Like the quality of play is so good,
Oh, of
you
course.
know. But the Olympics, like I want to say probably like the 96 Olympics in Atlanta, like they had so many personalities on that team, but they just were rolling over everybody and having fun.
Who was there?
Uh,
Leslie and
at,
Lobo and Holtzclaw and all them.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
I know my history of
they're
WNBA.
they're no, but they're just
They're
ballers,
ballers.
And Sabrina, I hadn't seen a lot in college. She was West Coast. You heard, unfortunately, last year she got hurt,
Yes.
but they had a COVID thing in the bubble. So, like anyone knows about the hype. So being there the other night was exciting. Um,
You witnessed the game winner, right?
yeah, and she's a baller. Like she's good, and she shoots, and people. It's funny because I was actually talking to Kyrie about it,
Were
and
you
it's
really?
like,
What do you say?
he loves watching the women. And I'd have to say 90% of the women wear Kyrie shoes. He's a huge supporter of the
I
W,
love that.
and it's like, yeah, look at who she learned from. And Kyrie's a big Kobe fan,
Of course.
and Sabrina
Idolize Kobe.
was a big Kobe, and she actually always, and I haven't even mentioned it to her because we have not had any one-on-ones of yet, but for someone of her young age, when she spoke at Kobe's memorial, was incredibly moving.
And touching. Yep.
She was like 19 years old, maybe 20, like crazy, how moving and touching she was speaking at such an young age. And that, forgetting about the hoop side, that spoke to me personally,
Well,
about who she was as a person
her mature.
and getting to watch her. The place is rocking, but like Barclays is rocking with the W, and it's fun.
It's fun. It's fun. Well, her maturity level's off the
Yeah.
charts. Her game IQ is off the charts, and the WNBA
Yep.
is in good hands with a young woman like that who's just taking over the game
Absolutely.
and she's box office. I will stop what I'm doing no matter what when she's on TV. I
Right.
did it when she was in college, and I think that she's paving the way. And she's also an amazing, incredible role model for all the young
Right.
girls out there that want to pursue a basketball dream, because there's a ton of them.
Right. And there was a crazy story. I've always been you're a Long Island guy. Sue Bird is
Syosset High School.
right. Like, she had a thing on her Instagram the other day, and she's so funny. Like, forgetting about how ridiculous. I think would take 2 hours to just list her accomplishments from Syosset to UConn to Olympics to W. Like, forget it.
Yes.
Like championship everywhere. But she was on her Instagram talking about when W just started this year, one of her teammates' moms wanted to meet her. They were the same age. They had the same birthday.
Are you
And
kidding?
she's like, what? Sue Bird is 40, playing in the WNBA, kicking ass at 40. One of her teammates' moms was 40. So the teammate, it could be 19, 20, like whatever. And the mom wanted to meet Sue Bird because the mom was a big fan. And she's like, oh my God, what am I
And
got
they're the
myself?
same age.
And it was just a funny thing because she was so natural with her reaction.
Of course.
And that's who she is. And she's kicking ass at 40.
It's unbelievable.
They're all going to Tokyo again this year. And they're ballers. It's fun to watch.
I don't blame in the slightest.
Yep.
I've met Sue Bird numerous times. She's always been so cool, and same with you. Like she's the same way you spoke to me and treated me like I was someone big. Like she does that too. I met her at Barclays, and like she's very recognizable, and people are coming over to her, and she took the time out of her day to talk to everyone.
Right.
So she's great.
Right.
It's kind of cool to see her pass the torch to a girl, someone like Sabrina, which is really cool.
Yep.
By the way, speaking of Barclays, we might see a little Brooklyn Nets, New York Liberty both winning the title this year. You think there's a chance of that or no?
It would be nuts. Like I said, I have a lot of friends and do a lot with Nets and Barclays, and I have a soft spot there. And I remember how I said I don't want to jinx. You don't say you get the photo before you get it. I'm not going to say anything.
Don't jinx it.
I'm not gonna jinx it because I have a lot of high expectations for both of them.
Unbelievable. It's actually incredible. I mean, let me ask you. Obviously, on a touchy subject, of course, but the unfortunate passing of Kobe last year. Obviously, it was incredible to see him, enshrined into the Hall of Fame. We all knew he was going there, but to finally see it happen, to see Vanessa's incredible speech, to see MJ there, and obviously today's Garnett's birthday. He's one of my favorite players to collect. Shout out KG, and then Timmy D. Seeing all three of those guys, enshrined into the Hall of Fame where they belong and solidified in NBA, royalty forever. Do you have any fun stories with any of those guys? Do you have any Kobe memories that you'd like to share?
Yeah, a ton of them, and it's still a very, it's still hard to believe, and what strikes me most about Kobe still is these next generation guys, like I was talking about Kyrie. Like I'm older, so it was MJ. Like it was all about Bird Magic, MJ. Like, but these younger guys, Kobe was their guy, and Kobe affected like a whole generation of current day players, all for the good, like his legendary work ethic and, the crazy stories of him, his workouts and things like that, it has affected, the entire league with the generation of guys,
Of course.
And to me, that's cool. That's a little bit of the play it forward, but a lot of the guys know who can play and who can't. It's like the old game respects game kind of thing.
Of course.
When you're an athlete at that such a high level, and they're always pushing to get better. Kobe pushed himself with MJ, there was a crazy video of Kyrie challenging Kobe to a one-on-one at one of the USA basketball.
I remember
things,
that.
and Kobe was giving Kyrie shit. Oh, Kobe, right? Well, that's Kyrie, but that's what he aspired to be, and Kobe sort of took him under his wing a little bit with stuff both on and off the court.
And I think Kobe appreciates that, right?
That's what these guys do.
Wouldn't you say Kobe appreciates that?
100%. Like that's the ultimate compliment, And even MJ said in his speech, like Kobe would call him, and it was a little annoying. Who's this little brother?
Right.
But then you become like that's what they aspire to be, and that's cool to me. That's how the game progresses, and that you have different personality. And you talk about KG and Tim Duncan couldn't be more different personality-wise. KG's so like outwardly like vocal. Don't underestimate Duncan's competitive fire, whatever. He was just not expressing it the same way.
Right.
Tim Duncan did not become Tim Duncan, the basketball player, by being like Mr. Mellow Island St. Croix guy. That's his background.
Right.
But when you step on the court, he was a monster. Look at his stats. He's like the all-time great, you know? So that's what drives these guys. That's what makes them who they are.
And Garnett's one of my favorite players, like I said, but it's crazy how you have Garnett and Duncan, total polar opposites when it comes to personality, but they all had the commonality of they had a competitive drive, and just because one wasn't vocal doesn't mean Duncan's one of the most decorated players of all time.
100%. And that's like even like for me personally, I'm perhaps a little bit more of a Duncan personality on the outside, but don't ever question what's going on inside.
Obviously.
In terms of like me being competitive at a game or want like that inner drive kind of thing,
Well, until we start seeing
differently,
until we start seeing some Nat Butler elbows to other photographers to get out of their shot, I don't believe you yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yo, Drifter Thrifter said Duncan rookies are so undervalued. Drifter Thrifters, I agree with you completely. Tim Duncan rookie cards are certainly undervalued. I've been buying them up left and right. I have a ton of them right now. I wonder if some have some Nat Butler photos on them, which would be.
I'm sure they do. I need to learn from you. Like I said, what makes the card valuable? What doesn't make it valuable? Like it's just funny. Like we were talking about MJ before. I have, Dream Team stuff.
Yeah.
I think anything Dream is the greatest team ever. Like that should be considered valuable.
What do you have?
I have.
Show me some stuff.
Shaq was one of my favorites. I have a lot of Shaq.
Is that a Shaq rookie that you shot the image on that card, right?
Yeah. He's just like the crazy, nice guy.
And you know Shaq well, right?
Yes, good guy. But okay, we were talking about number 12 before and you know more about it than I. Like, correct me. The Jordan in the background of Sam Vincent.
Yes.
Was because of that year.
Yes, correct, from 1990.
Right.
Which is weird that you went to a random Orlando Magic game in Orlando. Obviously, you're following Jordan, but this was in February of '90. Such a random time and a random year. And
so I have.
What do you have?
Well, I have an Upper Deck, but it's a tribute card.
You have the 97 tribute set card?
Oh, it's different. I guess I'm going to try to get the reflection out of the. But that's from that same game, wearing number 12.
That's awesome that you have that card.
So I have no idea.
That's your photo, right?
Right. And again, I have this card because it was my photo. I'm not getting cards because of the value.
Right.
Like originally I wanted to show my kids like what their pops did for a living or something, hey, I used to do this kind of thing.
Right.
But that was released like years later, so maybe it's not as valuable, but to me it should be valuable because it's the coolness factor of him in a number 12. Like, so that's where I don't understand or claim to understand the market at all.
Well, we would need another episode. We would need another hour, and we would need you to hop back on again and talk about that.
Yeah.
And I got you. But when it comes to a card like that, you can't put a price on sentimental value. So that card is near and dear to your heart. You shot that image. That's the only that I'm aware of. The only Michael Jordan card in existence where he's on the offensive end of the play wearing the number 12 jersey. So it's pretty cool that Upper Deck came out with that set in '97 as a tribute to Jordan. And you own it, and it's in good condition. It's probably worth a couple bucks, but like you said, you're not in the game to make money. You're in the game to be like, hey, like I shot that. It's really cool, and it's different because there's Nat. I'm sure you can imagine. This is from the junk wax era. There's a billion of these out there.
Right.
That's
because any other I'm into antiques and things a little bit just personally. Like that's all like, well, how many of those were printed? Would be a logical question. If the more printed, the value comes down, kind of thing.
Of course. Drifter Thrifters just said this needs a part 2, no doubt. Nat has to go through his card and memorabilia collection. We need a part 2, Nat.
Like
let's see that one.
The Barcelona, like these are all like just the 92. And then the other thing, the other thing that I never know.
Talk to me.
Is you always hear about the boxes unopened. Well, do you open a box? Do you not open a box? Like that whole thing is interesting to me just as a fan. Like I used to put stuff in, the kids would open cards for Christmas. Like that's what we did. Hey, looking at cards. That's part of the fun.
Of course.
You shouldn't open that box. Like,
well, it's changed
I don't know. You want to have some fun. you
Nat,
know?
I am
Uh,
so with you, but we're considered old heads when it comes to that because what the smart investment side of things to do is today is save that box. It's like
right.
you get that new car and you don't want to roll it off the lot because the minute you do, it goes down in value. The minute you break the seal, it's game over and the value isn't the same. However, some people are in it for the value, some are collectors. I'm more of a collector. I'm having problems selling things because they're near and dear to my heart. I want to open this and have fun. I don't blame you.
Right, 'cause you're a big fan. Like
Correct.
it's never been about that. It's never been about money to me. Like even I hate to say we talked about the Jordan shoes. Okay, whatever. Like I've been at the NBA for almost 40 years. Like now the big thing is the tickets. Like a Michael Jordan ticket from this game or that game is worth. I was like, I don't know. Like they walk out of the arena, there's tickets all over the floor. I'm not going to go pick
Of
up
course.
like, should I have done it 40 years? I don't know. I enjoyed the experience. Be at the game, enjoy, live your life kind of mentality,
I
you
am
know?
so with you on that 100%.
And
Um,
the thing that I will always take away is just the friendships that I've had over the years with, from players to an usher in a different arena, or you meet so many different people from different walks of life. That's the most memorable aspect of my entire career.
well, speaking of that, and one or two questions, and I'll let you get out of here. I know you got some playoffs to prepare for. I know that you need your Z's.
Right.
Speaking of relationships with players throughout the years, I know you were in Orlando this past year for the bubble, which was obviously a difficult time for the players and for obviously everyone sitting at home watching because going through a pandemic. We still are, so it's
Right.
it's still everyone has to do their part to be safe and look out for one another. But having the bubble, having the playoffs was a huge escape for sports fans and even non-sports fans that needed something competitive, some sense of sports to get their mind off of what's going on
Right.
in the real world. So that was great, and we obviously we all thank you for helping to be a part of that and distracting everyone from the reality of what's going on in the world. So that was awesome for to see that you were in the bubble. I followed you on Instagram and saw all that stuff. But what was that whole experience like? And I understand because we spoke about it. You've had a few opportunities to sit down with LeBron maybe for a bite. Tell me
Right.
about that.
You know what, the bubble, like just all of what you said with what was going on in the world, people needed an escape. And it's crazy the amount of work that some of these NBA and Disney people did to get that off the ground. Like they had 12 practice courts in like ballrooms at the hotel. Like crazy, crazy stuff.
Right.
And the commitment of the players to be away from their families and stuff was a big deal, and that's where the NBA I think is so great comparatively with some of the other leagues,
Mm-hmm.
because the NBA and the NBAPA are genuinely a partnership. The Players Association and the league, they can butt heads at times, but they work things out. It's a partnership. That's what you do in a partnership. You do for the collective better good of everyone. And just to have pulled that off from the operational standpoint, the league and PA people, it was remarkable. I just was lucky to tag along and got to go, as a
You're so
basketball
lucky.
no, as a basketball fan, again, it was the greatest thing ever for me because everything was in two different arenas initially. Actually, it was three initially, but the East Coast, like I'm based in New York, East Coast, West Coast, sometimes I don't see a lot of Utah. I don't see a lot of Dallas. I don't see a lot of those West Coast teams. In the bubble, everyone was there. So the basketball junkie in me, I'm watching these games. I'm seeing Donovan Mitchell, like they had crazy series. Denver had a crazy
Oh,
playoff series,
I know.
So getting to see some of the other teams we talked about, since LeBron moving to the Lakers, I don't get to see him as much,
Right. You miss your boy.
So just the basketball junkie in me, well, no, it's just watching him play. I'm not like hanging out talking to him every day. Well, I appreciate his greatness. But having said that, you're in the bubble. We're not hanging out with the guys because of a lot of the protocol stuff. But you do see them around. The guys were fishing. They were doing some things. LeBron had a bicycle because the campus was pretty spread out. You'd see him riding by on his bike.
Yeah.
You know? And it was just a fun a fun time. There was a meeting place where people got meals. And NBA is doing a documentary on the bubble. I don't know when it will come out,
Cannot wait for that to come out.
but it will, like, people saw the games, like TNT, ESPN, ABC. You saw the game, but the behind the scenes stuff was absolutely remarkable how they pulled that off.
And you lived it. You saw it every
and
day.
yeah, and the doc will show that. You know,
We cannot wait to see that. I cannot wait. Even though it's been a year, no one has seen the behind the scenes stuff.
right? No, the commitment of the players was absolutely remarkable. You know, and there was a LeBron story that I don't want to share just yet, but it involved him FaceTiming with his family. They were away from their family for
Months.
100 days. And when you have young children, kids grow up in 3 months. They change,
Right. Right.
and like I'm getting a little emotional. He got emotional one day, and I don't think he would mind me sharing this, but he was FaceTiming with his daughter, and his daughter started reading to him, and he started to tear up. And when he left to go to the bubble, his daughter wasn't reading. Like,
Oh,
that's the
God.
sacrifice that all these guys have made to be away from their families. So something like, we're all human. We have family. We have wife, kids, fam. Like, that put things in perspective. Is like, when I left, she couldn't read.
And in 3 months, she's reading already.
You over the head, and then like, he's there. There was a crazy Caruso story. Caruso's sister got married, and he didn't go to the wedding because if you left,
you had to quarantine.
You had to quarantine. He's on a team. They were fighting for a championship. He didn't go to his sister's wedding because they had a common goal of going to win a championship.
They all made sacrifices, and it obviously paid off because the Lakers took home.
Yeah, but that's what these guys do.
It's unbelievable.
And that was a huge time with what was going on in the country with the social injustice things too. That I'm always applauding the NBA guys for standing up.
Of course, you have to. I agree.
And that it shows to me what these guys are good people.
Well, you're very lucky in the sense that not only do you get a chance to see the behind the scenes in the bubble, but I think you're also lucky that how many people get to get past perception at the end of the day, and like a guy like LeBron who gets a lot of hate sometimes in the media and things like that, which is unfortunate because he's a role model. You got a guy like that, and you have the unique opportunity to see the human side of him that not many get to see. And you were sitting there when he FaceTimed his daughter, and he started getting emotional, and he hasn't seen her read, and now she's reading in the span of 3 months. She's growing up.
Right.
He's not there to witness it, but he could see it behind a screen while he's in Orlando doing his thing.
Right.
That's incredible. You had that unique opportunity to witness.
Yeah, and that just goes to show like what that their sacrifice was.
It's unbelievable.
And these guys, like, people, if you don't like LeBron, you don't like LeBron. It's not because of basketball or that, like, everyone has maybe you don't like the Lakers, whatever. You can't deny what he's doing. You can't. I'm a Kyrie fan. If you don't like him, say you don't like him. You cannot question what he does on the court, and now what he's doing more and more off the court. You can't question that.
I agree. Completely.
Kyrie, I've been doing this 37 years. Kyrie's the only person that I've ever shot that at times I wish I was shooting video, because I get a good picture of him and it doesn't do justice to what his move just was.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, he'll do one thing a game where you look over at the bench and the guys are on the bench, professional athletes, say, did you just see what he did? And that it's true. Like, the still image doesn't capture that. So that's cool to me. I have respect. These guys are at the top echelon of what they do. And I have respect for that no matter what your job is.
Of course.
If you're a school teacher, if you're the best school teacher, that's a cool thing.
I totally agree with that. I mean, on that note, speaking of top echelon of what they do in their career, it's safe to say that you are the top echelon of your career. And, just being a fan of yours and seeing some of the iconic images that have ended up on whether it's the NBA Instagram account, your personal page, sports cards or whatnot, just documenting history for the NBA the last 37 years. It's been pretty wild. And, even Drifter Thrifters just said, is Nat in the Hall of Fame yet? If not, when is that happening? So maybe you'll be in one day, hopefully. That'd be incredible.
Well, we're not going to jinx that, but that would be quite.
Knock on wood, 100%. But when it comes to someone who exemplifies what it is to be, a good person, not just a professional in their field, it's you. And I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. We're going to need more time. So if you're in agreement, we'd love to have you back on again.
Well, we'll talk after the season's over, and maybe we can update some of these stories and stuff.
Oh, I'm so.
And I'm a big fan. I want to follow. I want to educate myself about what you guys have going on.
I got you. Of course.
That's cool to me. I always want to be learning.
Of course, Nat. I really, really appreciate it, seriously. And I don't need to tell you this, but it's great to see you continue to be an example and just a good person overall. And I can't wait till this is over so we can actually link up in person. And I could give you a big hug and say what's up, and or maybe a fist pound because
there you go.
Because of COVID. I know that's the appropriate thing to do these days. But
no, thank you, Brett. I appreciate it, man.
Seriously, thank you for the time. Seriously. We'll touch base again soon. Enjoy the playoffs. Stay safe, and bring back some stories for us for next time. I'm sure you will.
Will do, and have some of these people. We didn't answer a lot of questions, but have them hit me up or DM me something if you have some questions. I'm happy to. Could take me a while to get back to you, but that's a kind of thing I do on the plane or in the hotel is try to get back to people.
100%. Hear that, guys? Nat's DMs are always open. Shoot him a DM if you have any questions, and he will be sure to get to them as soon as he can. But he's about to enter busy season. They got tax season. Nat's about to enter the tax season of NBA.
Good analogy. Yep, that's a good analogy.
I hear you.
More fun. It's more fun than the paperwork of taxes. We're having fun. By the way, what am I doing tonight? I'm watching the Warriors-Lakers. How could you not watch that game?
Of course.
Might be tired on the East Coast watching it, but I'm there. I'm all in on watching that game.
I think everyone will. And you got Lakers, right? It's hard to bet against LeBron.
I'm not betting against LeBron. and Memphis and San Antonio is the early
That'll
start.
Be a good game too.
Okay, everyone. Ja Morant. Have you seen what he does every night?
He's a freak of nature.
Yeah. So let's go. I'm gonna be in front of the TV watching.
Cannot wait for that. Nat, seriously, if we don't stop now, I'm not gonna stop because.
Oh, go ahead.
Not trying to kick you off. I respect your time though.
I appreciate everything. Thanks, and keep in touch.
Nat, you're the best. We'll talk soon, okay?
All right. Thanks, Brad.
Awesome, brother. Appreciate you.
So long, guys.
Bye. All right, folks. Well, there you had it. The most epic NBA photographer in history. It's not an opinion. It's a fact. I'm saying it right now. Nat Butler, the man, the myth. He came and he saw and he conquered this conversation. If I didn't get to any of your questions, I apologize. We will get to them at another time. But we have Nat Butler on. We'll have him on again. I promise he'll come back. I'll convince him. I don't think he's going to even need convincing, but we'll have him on again. He's about to enter busy season with the playoffs, but we will have him on again. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. If you don't already, follow us at The Score on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and we will be back next week from Mint Conditions 7 live. And this week we have a special episode on Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, and Kevin Garnett, as they've been enshrined into the Hall of Fame. I'll be discussing some of their cards, not the highest of high end cards that are affordable, cards that you should have in your collection if you're a collector. So tune in. That episode will drop tomorrow. Thanks so much for tuning in, and really appreciate it, guys, as always.